You know that moment, the one where the conversation is technically over, but nothing feels finished. You're standing in the kitchen, or sitting in your car, or staring at a phone that hasn't lit up in hours, and the silence feels louder than the fight ever did. Their side of the bed is still warm in your memory. Their mug is still in the cabinet. Their name is still sitting in your chest, like something unfinished. And what hurts most is not just that they're gone. It's that part of you still cannot tell whether they miss you too. And your mind starts doing what minds do. Did I matter more to me than I did to them? Was any of it real? How can someone say they love you and still disappear like that? Why does this keep happening? Am I the problem? Here's the truth no one tells you. An avoidant doesn't always feel less. They often feel too much in ways their nervous system has spent years learning not to trust. So no, you're not crazy for feeling confused. And no, this is not proof that you imagined the connection. You're not failing at love. You're looking at a pattern most people never learn to name. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what an avoidant often feels after you're gone, why their silence can be so misleading, and what that truth means for your healing, your closure, and the kind of connection you build next. Let's get into it. Most people believe that if an avoidant really loved you, they would show it the way you expected. They would call, they would chase, they would break down immediately. But the real truth is a lot more complicated, and honestly, a lot more human. Avoidant attachment is not the absence of love, it's the presence of protection. That's what most couples miss. They think withdrawal means indifference. They think distance means certainty. But beneath the surface, an avoidant partner's nervous system is often reading closeness and conflict at the same time as connection and danger. So when the relationship ends, their body may register relief before their heart registers loss. Not because they never cared, not because they were cold, not because you made it all up, but because when someone has learned that love can overwhelm them, distance can feel like safety before it starts feeling like grief. And here's what changes everything. When safety leaves a relationship, love doesn't always disappear. Sometimes it goes underground. That is why an avoidant can look calm while something unspoken is moving through them. That is why what looks like stonewalling is often someone who has been emotionally flooded for so long that silence feels like the only shelter they have left. And that is why you can't measure their feelings only by how quickly they reach out. So if you've been trying to make sense of their absence, start here. You are not just looking at behavior. You are looking at attachment, protection, shame, longing, and a nervous system that often confuses being deeply affected with being unsafe. Here's the part no one talks about. For many avoidant people, the first feeling after you're gone is not heartbreak, it's relief. Most couples misunderstand that immediately. They assume relief means the relationship meant nothing. But most people in relationships don't realize that an avoidant nervous system can experience closeness, conflict, expectation, and emotional intensity like a smoke detector that cannot tell the difference between actual danger and the possibility of being emotionally consumed. So when the relationship ends, their system exhales, the pressure drops, the demands go quiet, the tension in their body softens, and for a moment, what they feel is, I can breathe again. That doesn't mean they didn't love you. It means their body was overwhelmed in ways they probably didn't know how to explain while you were still there. You can hear the difference in what comes out next. The disconnecting version sounds like, I'm fine, this is probably for the best. The connecting version sounds like, part of me feels calmer right now, and part of me already knows I'm going to miss you more than I can admit. That's the shift. And when someone can name relief without pretending it cancels love, the walls between you start to look less like cruelty and more like protection they never learned to put down. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Avoidant grief often shows up late. Most couples expect pain to arrive on schedule. They think if someone doesn't fall apart right away, they must not be hurting. But the deeper truth is that avoidant patterns are built around deactivation. Their system numbs first, organizes later, and feels last. That is why what you see in the beginning can be so emotionally misleading. At first, they stay busy. They work more, scroll more, sleep with someone too soon, laugh too easily, talk like they've already moved on. But beneath the surface, the real feeling is often waiting for the moment the noise dies down. Then it hits. In the car, in the grocery store, on a random Tuesday when your favorite song comes on and there is no one left to perform distance for. The disconnecting version sounds like, I don't want to talk about it. It's over. The connecting version sounds like, I thought it was okay, but now it's catching up to me, and I don't think I let myself feel any of this. That matters more than people think, because when grief is delayed, the silence after a breakup is not always empty. Sometimes it is just slow, and when it finally arrives, it lands like a wave in a room they thought was already dry. But here's what nobody explains. Silence can look like certainty when it's actually fear. Most couples read silence as a verdict. They hear nothing and conclude they never cared enough to speak. But for an avoidant, reaching out can feel incredibly exposing. It can stir up longing, shame, vulnerability, and the terrifying possibility that if they open the door again, they will be pulled back into feelings they still don't know how to hold. So they stay quiet. Not always because they're done. Sometimes because their inner world is saying, if I start this conversation, I won't know how to finish it. Or, if I admit I miss her, I'll have to face how much I shut down when it mattered. That silence is not emotionally available, but it is often emotionally loaded. You see it in the message they don't send. The disconnecting version is no message at all, or something flat like, hope you're good. The connecting version is, I've wanted to reach out for days, but I need to be honest that I shut down when feelings get real, and I'm trying to understand that instead of pretending I don't care. That kind of truth changes the emotional temperature immediately. Because when silence stops being mistaken for simple indifference, you begin to see the scar tissue beneath the surface instead of just the wall in front of you. This is where it gets really interesting. Avoidants often miss you sideways. Most couples imagine missing someone as a grand emotional collapse, a late-night confession, a dramatic return, a big speech in the rain. But real longing usually doesn't arrive like that. It arrives in tiny, ordinary moments where presence used to live. In the second coffee cup, in the empty passenger seat, in reaching for the phone to send you something funny before remembering there is no you there anymore. This kind of missing is quiet. It slips past their defenses before they can stop it. And for a second, something in them says, she was woven into more of my life than I wanted to admit. Or, he made this place feel less cold, and I didn't understand that until now. Not missing your texts, not missing the convenience, not missing the routine alone, but missing the real emotional imprint of being known. The disconnecting version sounds like, it's just a song. It doesn't mean anything. The connecting version sounds like, I didn't realize how many parts of my day had you in them until they started going quiet. And when that truth breaks through, even briefly, the relationship stops feeling like a story they ended and starts feeling like a bond their body still remembers. Here's the deeper wound. A lot of avoidants do not just fear closeness. They fear what closeness might reveal about them. Most couples think avoidant people are only afraid of commitment, but the real truth is often more painful than that. Many are carrying an old, unspoken belief that if someone gets too close, they will eventually see them as needy, inadequate, disappointing, trapped, or impossible to love. So when conflict happens, they do not just hear feedback, they hear failure. That is why they go withdrawn. That is why repair feels so hard. Beneath the surface, their nervous system is not simply saying, I need space. It is often saying, I do not know how to stay in this moment without feeling defective. And if shame is running the room, distance starts to feel safer than being seen. You can hear both versions in one sentence. The disconnecting version is, here we go again. Nothing I do is ever enough for you. The connecting version is, when you say we need to talk, something in me instantly feels like I'm failing you, and that makes me want to disappear. That sentence changes everything. Because when shame gets named, your partner stops feeling like a puzzle to solve and starts feeling like a human being who has been protecting a bruise you could not see. And here's what changes everything. Missing you is not the same as being ready for you. Most couples confuse reappearance with repair. They think if an avoidant comes back, reaches out, or suddenly sounds soft, that automatically means growth has happened. But sometimes what brings them back is not transformation. It is loneliness. It is the quiet after the distraction. It is the ache of losing connection without yet having built the capacity for emotionally available love. That distinction matters so much, because an avoidant can genuinely miss you and still repeat the same patterns. They can feel longing, real longing. They can feel regret, real regret, and still not know how to stay present when intimacy becomes demanding again. This isn't about judging them, it's about seeing clearly. This isn't a communication hack. This is what emotional maturity actually asks of someone. The disconnecting version sounds like, I miss you. Can we just not make it heavy this time? The connecting version sounds like, I do miss you, but I also know missing you is not enough. If I come back, I have to come back willing to do this differently. That's the difference you can build a future on. Because when longing becomes responsibility instead of just impulse, the relationship starts to feel less like a cycle and more like a place where repair might finally be real. This is the final truth, and honestly, it's the one that stays with people the longest. Most couples think an avoidant only regrets losing access, the company, the comfort, the routine. But what often cuts deepest is the realization that they were loved by someone real and still could not stay open long enough to receive it. That pain is hard to admit, because once they face that, they also have to face themselves. So what haunts them is not always just your absence. It is the recognition that they kept turning away from something they actually wanted. He actually cared, and I kept minimizing it. She was trying to reach me, and I kept acting like I needed less than I did. That is a brutal thing to sit with. Man, that kind of awareness can crack somebody open years later. You can hear the split so clearly. The disconnecting version sounds like, relationships just aren't for me. The connecting version sounds like, I cared more than I let myself show, and I kept pulling away every time it got real because I didn't know how to stay. And when someone finally sees that, the story changes. Because that is the moment a person stops blaming connection for the pain and starts realizing the pain came from never learning how to hold it. So, if you've been sitting there wondering whether an avoidant feels anything after you're gone, the answer is often yes. More than they show. More than you can measure from the outside. But the deeper truth is this. Their feelings alone are not the whole story. What matters is whether those feelings ever become awareness, accountability, presence, and change. This isn't about waiting for someone to come back and finally say the perfect thing. It's about becoming someone who can recognize patterns, trust what is real, and stop confusing emotional unavailability with mysterious depth. Bro, that changes your whole life. Because once you see attachment clearly, you stop chasing mixed signals and start choosing connection that feels safe, mutual, and honest. These aren't just insights about them. They are standards for you. They are the beginning of becoming the kind of partner who no longer begs for scraps, no longer romanticizes walls, and no longer calls uncertainty love. If this gave language to something you've been carrying, stay here with me. There's a lot more to unpack, and you do not have to do that alone. Love doesn't fail because someone feels deeply and hides it. It fails when deep feeling never becomes brave enough to be real. If you want, I can also turn this into a clean voiceover version with no numbering, no labels, and smoother YouTube pacing.